Haha. Why are we on that slide, Ken? Why am I still hearing music?
You're going to keep going, aren't you?
Just keep doing it. Keep doing it. There we go.
You're going to have me. That's my intro music. You're just playing me in. Is that what
How
it
does
is?
all this crap work? Who set this thing up? I don't know how to use any of it.
What you need to do is set up like a StreamYard for dummies. And then just there you go. That'll be.
If I could make my own StreamYard for dummies, then I would technically know how to use my own StreamYard. So welcome back, everyone, to the Creative Economy. It's our weekly interview series. We'll be interviewing voices and players from the creator economy at large, discussing key topics impacting the growth of the creator economy. We do go live on Wednesdays at 2 p.m. Pacific time, and we stream on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, LinkedIn, and Twitter Spaces. So pick your poison. And Facebook, what did I say? I forgot Facebook?
Oh. You keep forgetting one. It's always one that you keep forgetting.
Facebook. Yes, of course, and Facebook. If you do want to find out more, you can head over to created.show. It's the official show page where we have all of our upcoming episodes and some information and links to all of our other resources. And of course, if you're interested in show notes and long-form content, head over to createdeconomy.com. That is our official site. So, Ken, how are you doing?
I'm good. It's short week. We are back after a Labor Day, well rested. But there's a lot that's going on. We are in for a great series of guests through, I think, November. More on that at the end of the show.
Yep.
But today is going to be a special episode. Unfortunately, Jim Louderback from VidCon wasn't able to join us due to a conflict. But in its place, I think
insult his honor.
Yeah. This is going to be, we're going to have a group of people that we've come to know and sort of respect, maybe. I don't know.
After dark in the light, right? So basically, if you don't know, this we usually have an after show. We do have an after show. We'll have it after today as well. And this is our crew, our fairly set of regulars, I would say, who came in at the last minute. And we're doing something interesting, I think, today, actually, either way, wrong one, which is for the first time, we're going to be doing what we call like our sort of founder roundtable. And I think the idea of it ultimately is that, oh man, I just missed all the slides. I'm just going in the wrong order. But what we're going to be doing is we're going to be hearing from voices of creators to sort of, of founders and builders to sort of see where they're going at. But let me finish up the bookkeeping.
All right.
Just in case you don't know, this is our Creative Economy show. It's on Wednesdays, but we also do Creative Briefs, which is our weekly news show. That's on Fridays at 8 a.m. Pacific time. Feel free to tune in. Follow us anywhere and everywhere as Creative Economy. We're on all the places that you could find us. And we do tweet links constantly throughout the week leading up to the show. Also, we are doing our new drop, our next drop. Every episode, we will have a drop. Sometimes it'll be for different amounts, but head over, grab a screenshot of this. You can grab your free AMA. It's our second drop. If don't already have one, it's totally free to receive it. All you have to do is sign up for a free rally.io account, and basically you'll be able to claim some AMA. So we're happy for you to continue to be part of the economy here. Also, we do have a Slack. This is a little bit new, and we do want to invite all of you to join if you're watching now or tuning in later. Head over to creative-slack over on Bitly, or you can scan this QR code as well. And it is a community of folks who are watching the show, paying attention to the show. A lot of the founders that you're going to see today as well. We found them and brought them in through from the community as well. So, Ken, as we were saying, we decided at the last minute that, hey, we've been covering a ton of topics and content here for this is our 15th episode.
Yep.
And it'd be interesting and useful maybe to reflect a little bit on some of the themes that have been emerging. And so we pinged a bunch of our friends from the Slack and said, hey, can y'all join us to chat a little bit? And so I think today's, we're going to have a little bit of a reflection. We've got about 5 or 6 topics to run through. So we're going to go quickly. But we're going to ask everyone for a little bit of their take or their feedback on different ideas. And so why don't I bring everyone in real quick, and then we can have a very quick intro from the gang. So for me, I have Abhinav next to you, Ken. Is that right?
Yes. That
okay,
is great.
So let's start with you, Abhinav. Do you want to do a quick intro?
Yep, perfect. So you know my name. I am one of the co-founders of YourFeed. YourFeed is a online video-first fan community platform. So we have dedicated communities for artists, musicians, creators, and sports stars. And the idea is we're using it to scale video interaction. So we think video is the way. And obviously live video is amazing, as it helped us. But yeah, we're trying to use short video messaging. So that's what about me.
Nice. We definitely have to do the pimp my stream for you now, right?
Yeah.
All right. How about this? Arnold, let's get you next. You want to do a quick intro?
Yeah, sure thing. So, yeah, well, you guys got the name. So we're working on Hang Glide, which is basically a place for creators and artists to build their own premium membership communities for their biggest fans. So the idea is basically we just believe that as you build up your big followings all across different other social platforms, you need to have a premium space where you can directly engage with your most loyal fans and really build that relationship with them, your own home, if you will, for your fan base. And so we're looking to build that.
Awesome. Jesse, you're up next, my friend. Oh, you're on mute.
Hey guys, Jesse here from Highbeam, and we're working on a platform that is essentially like Zendesk for creators that allows creators who have multiple audiences on multiple platforms to consolidate their DMs and comments and other forms of messages into a single focused workspace. We found that tons of creators are feeling overwhelmed by opportunity, which is a good thing, but can sometimes cause some pain. And that's Highbeam. You can find us at highbeamapp.com. Thanks for having me on.
Awesome. Thank you for joining us. And last, but certainly not least, Matt, how are you, buddy?
Gentlemen, how are we doing?
Good. How about yourselves?
Very well, very well. Thank you for having me. Matt here, VP at FamePick. We are building the CAA for the creator economy, tech-driven talent management platform. We currently manage about 50,000 creators in a managed and self-managed capacity.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, actually, Matt, why don't we continue that conversation? So, Ken, you want to start us off with our first topic, actually?
Yeah, sure. So as Greg was talking about, we have a series of topics that we want to get through. And our first one is right up Matt's alley. Let's talk about the future of creator representation, right? I think, Matt, since you, Greg, and I had this conversation, I think in episode 3 of our series, there's been quite a bit that's changed in terms of the space. Your comments on the means of creation Discord and in our Slack channel have been pretty insightful. So I kind of want to get your thoughts in terms of where do you see the creator representation kind of space being right now, and where do you see it going?
Great question. So I think, that's been an evolving last 18 months, obviously, in the creator economy, especially towards talent representation. It's always kind of been like the one that people don't want to talk about. A lot of brands don't like to work with talent managers. We're finally starting to see that change. I think the old school way of talent management is finally evolving. I think the creator economy is definitely pushing that in the right direction. For those that aren't familiar, the old school kind of Hollywood way, as some people call it, of talent management or representation is very archaic, right? They used to do everything by fax machines and emails and phone calls. And anyone that's familiar with Entourage, that's a pretty accurate representation of how it went down.
Are you the Ari?
No, definitely not me. I definitely know some Aries, but that's not my style.
Are you Turtle? Is that what it is?
But yeah, I mean, we're at FamePick here. We're trying to push the way representation is seen. Really, we've been kind of playing an education long game, so to speak, meaning it's not always you have to have full representation, right? We kind of believe in a hybrid model, and that's really why we're trying to build what we've built. And if you want some type of self-service representation, go for it. If you really don't have the time, or you're at the level of like, hey, I can't do this by myself, I really need someone full-time, then you need to go to more of a full-time route. So Ken, to answer the question, I think it's a new hybrid route as we move forward. It's not a full-blown, hey, my manager handles everything, right? Everything runs through them. It's more of, hopefully some type of collaboration between the talent management, the talent agency, and the creators moving forward. Because as we all know, the space has evolved. It's not black and white anymore.
What are you saying what do you think in terms of, I guess, let's talk about like there's obviously the big names in the space, like Dr. Disrespect. He went full on YouTube gaming, right? Or YouTube streaming, whatever. And then there's others, big name creators that have gone to actual major talent agencies, traditional talent agencies such as CAA, I think. And so you see a lot of these creators, such as early stage, like Greg and myself, that are like, oh wow, they're making it big. Is the reality for creators is that something that they should be aspiring to, or is there something where they need to set their expectations a little bit more realistic, and that's how enlisting the help of a talent manager could help with that?
Greg and I have talked about this a lot too, and I think it really depends on what the creator's ambitions are. Everyone seems to classify creators as always entrepreneurs, and having worked with thousands of them, that's really not true. A lot of them are, but it's not the majority percentage. It's probably not even, if I had to guess, it would probably be maybe 20-30% of the creators that we've worked with. So if they're wanting to be, full blown, I want to make this everything I can do, then yeah, you're going to need help, right? Everyone that looks at the top creators, they have, I think I've said this before, they have full blown teams behind them, right? They're incorporated companies, right? They have 20, 30, 40 people. They have hundreds of thousands of dollars on each kind of piece of content they're making. And that's obviously not for everybody. Not everyone wants to have that type of production team or production environment. So I think it's what the ambitions are.
When you say a hybrid, Matt, I guess a couple of questions related to this. Do you see it, the representation happening sooner or like earlier in folks' lives than sort of later? I think like for example, YouTubers, like in the earlier days when there was purely like MCNs, it was sort of like, I need to get into an MCN. So I had like some representation. Then a lot of people regretted those decisions later. Do you think that's happening earlier? And then much like to your model, I guess, is software sort of proxying for some representation to some degree as well?
Yeah, we like to call it like what streaming's done to cable to make it more like a la carte. If you want certain aspects of management, you can get them. You don't have to have the all-encompassing, everything runs through my manager or my agent. We just don't feel like that model works with today's environment. So if you're just looking for someone to review your contracts, right? Like, hey, I can handle the negotiations, but I need a lawyer. I need someone well-versed in this. That's something we're offering. If you just need, hey, I don't have a media kit. I don't know how to send this to brands. That's something you can offer. When traditionally the talent manager or the agent had to handle all of that. And again, that's also not feasible to scale, right? CAA's done it pretty well, but if you look at their roster, I think it's probably 700-800.
Right.
But I think as we all, and they're the biggest by far. It's like it's not even close.
Any questions from the gang here, that are joining us?
I was just going to say, we've also had some of the creators we talked to kind of say, look, we'd be happy if you took a higher rate, but you could help us out with this, this, and this. They're like, I just don't want that in my world. Like, maybe that might be, we want some mental health coaching. We want some kind of assistance from that side. Kind of that top-down organizational help that you get in big organizations that individuals don't. They want some of that support system. So they're like, if you can support us with that, take a higher take rate.
So Matt, what would you say, like in this conversation with builders, the founders, like they want to work with your customers, your clients, right? Like what's the best way for that to happen? How should they approach talent agencies such as FamePick? Because what you told us previously is that FamePick is not just a talent agency. It's like you're on that CAA level, but you're also a software. You also build software to help with creators as well. So, but you have this huge bank of creators that you're working with. How do these builders here, such as Jesse, Arnold, and Abhinav, how do they work with you guys? How do they get in touch with you to build that relationship to kind of offer their assistance to your creators?
Yeah, good question. So again, I think what I would love to see and what we're all trying to push for, I think, is more transparency in the industry. And that's something traditionally that's been lost with talent agencies of old, right? It's like the secret, like who actually represents who. And we're on our side, we're trying to move past that because we want to see talent management be seen as an asset, not like some liability, like, oh, they're going to charge me more money, or they're going to take this big old cut and then I'm going to get priced out or something. But it's really it should be viewed as an asset, especially for anyone building anything with creators. It's what I've done in the last 5 or 6 years is we've seen every single side, right? We're not one creator who makes one piece of content, right? We've seen thousands of creators make hundreds of thousands of pieces of content. So we were a lot more, what's the right word to say? Like, we've seen it all in a way. And I think a lot of traditional companies or brands don't see that. They just like, oh, it's an agent. I don't want to talk to them. I don't want to negotiate. Mm-hmm. But in reality, it's like we can provide a lot more than just like, hey, it's $1,000 for a post.
Yeah.
We've done like, tens of thousands of these campaigns. It's like, we know what can work. We know what doesn't. We know what's cutting edge. We know what's, coming up. So again, I wish people would be more open to it in terms of like, hey, this is something that can really help our company. I don't have to shop around, scroll through Instagram to find creators anymore. I can kind of go to 1 or 2 agencies and get it done.
Super cool. Well, I guess related, we have our second topic, which is it's kind of related, I guess, Matt, because you brought up something about like sort of like the take rates and the evolution of this thought process around take rates. The second topic we have is really just like, what is our current feeling of the state of the art, I guess, in the creator payment models? Because we've seen some shifting, right? Some switching to some lifetime models, some switching to SaaS models. I know we had some different folks who wanted to share. So I'm just curious who wants to chime in first on this topic.
Yeah, I can speak up here. So from my point of view, it's really like the thing that dictates the payment structure and the way that payment structure will evolve for each creator economy, kind of like niche or vertical platform type, is dictated by the power dynamic between creators and the platforms. Where there's more competition, like that juicy take rate is not going to be possible. Where platforms can control distribution and are really one of the few doing what they do well in the space, they're going to be able to take big rev shares, and that model can work really, really well. I think two examples that we can look at on either side of the extremes are Cameo. Cameo takes, I think it's 25%, at least it used to be. I don't know if it's changed. And to my knowledge, they don't negotiate. And I think their creators have pretty good agents, but they don't negotiate because they're seen as the only platform out there, because they've been able to hit that flywheel of growth that leads to strong distribution power. On the other side of the equation are the link in bio tools. So there's a ton of these tools out there. They're incredible innovation for the space, in my opinion. There is a good deal of differentiation, but the competition is really, really heavy. And so where they can process payments, those take rates are going to be super low, or they might earn majority of their revenue through a SaaS model of some sort of a monthly payment, which is where most of them have started. So again, driven by power of distribution, power of competition. And it looks like it's kind of like fairly different by vertical and category type, depending on what's going on in those specific verticals.
That's a good point. I know Arnold and I, we've talked about this a bit. In the Slack, we've talked about this, but the total creator cost of ownership is, I think, conceptually what we call it, which is, I think, to some degree, there is this discussion about like, what does it actually cost to operate or do the thing that a platform is doing, right? And like for a link in bio, it's easy relatively easy to sort of replicate. You can stand up a page or a site, right? But that's not necessarily as easy if you want to stand up like a video distribution network or something like that. Arnold, did you have any thoughts you want to share as well?
Yeah, no, I think it's about value that the platform's providing too, right? Like, I mean, there's obviously the distribution piece of it, but I think from the creator end, it's, how much value, how much time am I saving, how much revenue am I actually generating from this platform that, may make me feel more comfortable with a 15% take rate versus, a 25 or a 30% take rate, so. And then I think the other thing that kind of factors in too, that, it's separate but related, is also the payment processing fees that sort of sit on top of that take rate. If we're talking about, maybe a more traditional SaaS, like non-app, mobile store, then you're talking about the 2.9 or whatever percentage, right? Or you're talking about the the 30%.
Apple kind of tax, yeah.
Yeah. So I think that you got to sort of, that stuff has to get like factored in as well, which can be, definitely kind of impact how you do your pricing.
Yeah. I think Vimeo is like 50% effective, right? Because you have App Store fees and their take. I believe so.
Yeah. With you said Cameo, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a 25% of plus the App Store cost based 30. On what's up. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sorry, 30. Yeah.
Well, I have a question then, or just curious. Take rates obviously are sort of like a static number. We've seen sort of Gumroad last week announced changes to their take rates, right, Ken? Do you want to reflect on that for a sec?
Yeah. So Gumroad, as we talked about last week, they simplified their type of their take rate, as it were, right? So instead of having two different versions where you would have like your free and a premium, they're basically giving what you got for premium for free. But then they've kind of changed their take rate. So it's now, I think it's like a 0.5% more than what it was previously. So there's kind of like a give and take. So you get like a free domain and then some additional stuff that you would have had to pay for, like the premium features you would have paid for. You get that for free. But then once you start to accrue a certain amount of money, that percent, then that percentage that Gumroad takes is actually going to be a lot more. So, yeah. but I think, Greg, to what you're talking about is like Gumroad's not the only one that's kind of adjusted their take rate, right? And, you know, Apple, from a developer standpoint, has adjusted their take rate to a certain degree, or at least modified their App Store policy to allow a little bit more flexibility for developers based off antitrust and whatever. But, you know, Facebook and YouTube and all these other guys, I wouldn't be surprised to see them kind of adjusting accordingly as you start to see more of these type of more creators maybe starting to create more noise, as it were, in the space, to kind of like say, why are we giving more money to these companies when we're not really getting the, you know, equal amount of benefit?
Well, I think my question though is, what do we think about like lifetime limits or scale or take rates, I guess, right? Like Patreon has always had this, by the way. Like if the more features you use, you kind of opt into a higher take rate, which I always thought was a pretty interesting model. I think it starts at like 7% and goes up to like 12% if you're taking advantage of sort of the top level features. But it's actually not by the number of people. It's just by the capabilities that you want to activate. Any thoughts on, or any of you thinking about lifetime limits?
Well, so I think though, like, you know, you mentioned the Patreon rate, Greg, like with those sort of tiers, I mean, it gets tricky though, because in order to get maybe one extra feature that you need in sort of that third tier, you've got to pay, you know, you've got to basically join that tier when there's really one of 15 things that they've crammed into that tier, and the other 14 you don't care about. So, you know, personally, as we've thought about, you know, how we handle the pricing on the hang gliding, I mean, really, that wasn't an attractive model for us, just because we didn't want to force you to have to pay more money to get a bunch of stuff you didn't really care about when you know, just to leverage one you know, helpful feature.
So Arnold, you would do something a little bit more like an a la carte type of model, as opposed to like a Microsoft Office type of bundle, right? It's like, you know, I guess it's like saying, all you need is Microsoft Word, so you don't need, you know, Excel, Access,
That bold
PowerPoint.
is going to cost you extra, my friend.
Clippy, I just need Clippy. That's what I need. I don't need anything else, right? But I mean, Greg, I kind of, so in a way, I almost kind of disagree in terms of, and say, like, I would think that if you are moving up and adding more features, and you think that you need these features, paying a little bit extra might actually, it may be warranted from a business side. So, but I mean, obviously, I'm not the builder here, so you know, let's Arnold and
is anyone thinking about a lifetime limit at all? Like, so Twitter announced, you know, they were doing like first 50,000, it's one rate, and then beyond that, it's a higher rate. Gumroad is the opposite, starts at a higher rate and then works its way down to a lower rate. Anyone thinking about a similar model?
Not on this end, no.
Who's thinking about SaaS? I guess straight SaaS without a take rate. Jesse.
Yeah, we are. We haven't quite landed what the initial pricing is going to look like, but it will be a monthly SaaS fee.
Interesting.
Yeah,
we always think the same too. The simpler the pricing, the better. You know, some of these platforms get extremely complicated on how many fans do you have, how many features are you using, and to be honest, creators, they're on so many platforms as it is. Like, the simpler you can make it, the better.
Mm-hmm. So let me ask a question, I guess, just to all of you. It seems to me, perception-wise, getting to SaaS though tends to mean that someone recognizes that there's an ROI on using a thing, right? And I feel like a lot of creators deferred on these things because oftentimes they were unsure of the value it might create. Do we feel like, Matt, you were saying like 30% of your audience, 30% of creators maybe you've met are like truly entrepreneurs. Mm-hmm. Are they starting to recognize the value? Like, I think a SaaS is great if we could say great, like, yes, but it's going to be like $100 a month, right? Like, to start using our product, like, you know, or something like that. I'm just curious where everyone's thoughts are relative to that.
Well, you definitely have to prove value, and you don't have to charge right off the bat. I mean, if your model is ultimately going to be charging a monthly fee, you can choose as a builder when you want to start charging, and that might be, you know, based on some simplified version of feature sets. That might be on volume. That might be on a trial period. That might be on a number of different things. So it feels a little more nuanced than just a like yes, good, or no, you know, it's bad. So it feels like, you know, 10 years into the growth of SaaS as a major, if not dominant category, there's a whole bunch of different playbooks to sample from, and consumers, you know, creators are consumers as well. They're used to seeing almost every flavor under the book. And if you provide enough value as long as you can find the sweet spot between the value you provide and the cost to that customer, to that creator, you're going to be okay. So that's why we're leaning towards SaaS, and we have a lot to learn, but excited about it.
Greg, I will say the one angle which a lot of people don't talk about, but I think should be mentioned, is SaaS doesn't get the hate that take rates do.
For sure.
Like the platforms that charge take rates are like, oh, you're evil. Why are you taking so much money? You're stealing from the creators. But it's funny because like no one comments that on like a Linktree, right, which charges SaaS.
That's because it's
they
only
have hundreds of thousands of paying users too.
Yeah, I guess it's also the price point though, right? Like StreamYard, for example, I pay $50 a month. For a lot of people, that would probably be prohibitive, right? Or they equally think, that's too much for what it does, right? So yeah, I don't have an answer either. I think it should be a hybrid. I'm in favor of sort of like a small take rate with potentially like, some paid features, if you want to unlock things. I think it also depends on the fundamentals of your business. If you have something that is like a utility that you could gate or monetize in some way, it makes it easier to move to SaaS because it allows scalar like sort of growth, like still, right? Otherwise it's really hard. Like as we all know, brands hate open-ended things also. They don't want performance-based thing. Like they want to know what the budget is oftentimes when they're upfront, right? Like they're like buying a campaign. I have $10,000. Don't come back to me and ask for more after that,
It could be very well a perception issue, right? And Matt, to your point, like SaaS versus take rate. Like take rate is almost like a tax for creators. So they're like, okay, at the end of the day, it's a percentage of what you're making. So there's a variable. There's some it can shift based off, by month to month to year by year, right? But for SaaS, you're paying $5 a month or $50 a month or however that fee would be. So that's a fixed amount. So I think it's possibly that perception. Greg, I agree. It could be some sort of a hybrid model. Like you could say, all right, let's have them pay, $5 a month for just to use the service. And then as soon as you hit a certain point, if you need new features, maybe then you start to incorporate some sort of maybe don't call it a take rate, because then to Matt's point, it's that perception.
Oh, a tax. No.
I mean, you can call it whatever. Like I don't know, like bonus features, whatever. I don't know. Like I hear the wording, right? It can throw people off as soon as you mention certain words. That it's like a negative perception. But
and I think Jesse's right though. There's a big universe to draw from relative to ways to approach this.
Yeah,
I do think it's not the number of examples of ways to implement SaaS, right, that are the problem per se. It is the audience's receptiveness to the model itself, right? Yep. And so I think like I think we will get there, that as more of the creator space matures into realizing, hey, I'm operating a business. Maybe I don't consider myself purely entrepreneurial, but as I'm operating a business, that there are costs that go with running and operating that business, and those will scale. But here, actually, good leading, Ken. Let's go to our next topic.
Yeah, Greg. I mean, that was totally a nice lead into this conversation. And I don't think, Greg, you've said enough about this in the 14 episodes that we've had about this, including with Creator Briefs. So let's talk about the debate between whether creators are employees or entrepreneurs. And I think this all came to a start, I think, a few weeks ago, where there was a blog post or this article from Legion, who, Greg, and I'm going to paraphrase this, but you can speak a little bit more eloquently about this. But how our creators basically gig workers, right? And Greg, you were that was very similar to this concept of like take rates had this very negative connotation. That sparked some, like, that was very much a hit on you, that you felt like, wait, this is the wrong way to position things. And I mean, why don't we start with you and kind of in a short, and I use that word very, very strongly, short explanation. Why don't you kind of summarize your thoughts on, should creators be, their own business? Should they be entrepreneurs or something else?
All right. So I will say this, that I believe there's a few clumps of the ways that people seem to refer to creators, right? There's this emergent thought process that they're gig workers somehow performing on-demand tasks. There's another bucket that somehow they work for the platforms, like that they have jobs, right? Like, which is somewhat separate. There's another notion that they are entrepreneurs or sort of, and then for other people, they're just careerists, right? This is just, they're independent contractors, right? But they're not like in there. So I think that's kind of like the spectrum of the roles that I've seen cast on creators. I personally think it's pretty wrong-headed to describe, I think Legion had a tweet, which I found like very like kind of odd, to sort of say like, what kind of job takes 30% of your salary? And I was like, every job takes all of the profit you generate, right? So that's like a stupid comparison, if you ask me, right? Like, it's not a job. I commented, it's not a job. You're an entrepreneur, one way or another. Now, how big of an entrepreneur that's my opinion, but I think you work for yourself. Someone doesn't physically come in and tell you, hey, here's the things you need to produce today and tomorrow and the next day, right? Someone doesn't cut you a paycheck, hence it's definitely not a job, right? Like, it's not a paycheck. You're getting paid a 1099, right? Makes you minimally a consultant, right? Likely an entrepreneur. So that's sort of my frame on it, but I'd love to hear what everyone else thinks, because I've harped on it way too much in the past. Who wants to go first?
I'll take the first stab.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, you can't have it both ways, right? You can't have the platform, which any way you look at it is responsible. The major 5 platforms are solely responsible for the creator economy as a whole, period. So we can't just throw that out the window and be like, okay, thanks, we're not gonna compensate you anymore, right? So you can't just sit there and complain that, hey, these platforms did all this, basically promotion they made and what these creators do now. And then throw that out the window and say, hey, no, you guys are evil now. You can't take that much money. You got to give it all back. Because it's also an infrastructure thing. People don't realize how much stuff it takes to do. Great to your point, though. Like, which bucket do you put them in? Again, I think it's a hybrid thing. There's a lot of them that just want to be entrepreneurs. There's a lot of them just want to make it for fun. So I think even trying to classify them is a little silly.
Yeah,
I think they're all just creators. Why do we need to classify? Period. I think that's how I answer that. Is like, I don't see the reason why we need to classify them.
Yeah, I don't think it's a clean classification, I guess, but it's more about eliminating things that aren't true, right? Like, there's certainly the opportunity for there to be a platform where the creators work for the platform, right? Like, that's an innovation yet to happen, right? Like, where we employ people and they produce things for us.
That happens all the time, to be honest. TikTok pays a lot of people. YouTube pays a lot of people. Instagram pays a lot of people. That happens. People don't know that, but it happens all the time.
But it still feels a little kind of like discretionary ad hoc-y, like I'm saying, like, you could create a YouTube where we just hired all the people, right? Like, and they were just creators, and but that it's hard to scale because it's like a Vox or something like that where you have to hire kind of highly talented or vetted people, right? I'm sorry, I did cut someone off. I think someone had another thought though.
I was going to add about what is typically true of employees where there's some expectation of more stability and kind of like uniform contribute. Like, one of the natures of being an employee is relatively uniform contributions, whether that's a performance review against a specific employee level, whether that's a sales output, whether that's a, literacy measurement for a graduating class from a high school teacher. These are all fairly measurable types of jobs. And what I personally love about the creator economy is every creator is different. Each creator pursues something unique, and what they can produce should be their own. They can choose to operate on whatever platform they want to. There's a few that are kind of table stakes at this point, but they are basically choosing to participate either for love of their particular craft, space, passion, whatever, or from some of the benefits that those platforms give them. So it's tough to see a world where there's, full protection from downside, while still keeping all of the upside that comes with creator economy being like inherently a scalability play for individuals.
Yeah, it's the trade-offs, right? As always.
Exactly.
Right? Anyone could be independent if you want to hustle and put together the same compensation, right, or greater. Any last thoughts before we go to our next topic?
Greg, I mean, it's a question if we were to consider them employees, is that something any creator would even want? If YouTube said, hey guys, you're going to make, I mean, I don't know number of videos, right? Let's call it, 1,000 videos a year.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably, it may be too many. Let's say it one a day. Let's say 350 videos a year. We're going to pay you $50K. And that's it. You're never going to make any more money. I don't think that's something creators would want.
Well, I mean, Matt, to that point, you very well could, right? I mean, if you are by definition an actual employee of, like, an internal employee worker at YouTube, and you were tasked with creating it, like we were talking about a while back, there's like Microsoft's employees are have their own channel talking about the products, and it's completely sanctioned by Microsoft, but it's not like, it was not mandated by Microsoft. And now a lot of these companies, big tech companies, are hiring creators.
Talking about their stuff, right, Ken? I think like what Matt, or like where most creators are, is they're talking about the stuff they want to talk about, like without sort of a domain or context necessarily enforced around it, right? So, but I guess the closer analog to me would be like, HuffPo. Most writers, modern journalism, right, actually is like, you need to produce X number of, posts per day or per week or whatever it's going to be, right? We can't flight you to a certain topic to cover, et cetera, right? Like when you were a journalist, you had a beat, you still covered it. No one like necessarily said it wasn't that you couldn't get told to cover something, but like you still also had some domain and some sort of flexibility to choose things. But that was a job, right? Like that was an actual job, right? Like, covered by benefits. I don't know. I think there might be a future where something like this happens, but if the split is better, right? Like where, I think about it, Matt, probably more like I think about sales reps or SDRs or something like that, where it's like, we're going to give you a baseline, but there's a speculative amount of upside. Like, and here we estimate like what your total take is going to be, to be around here based on the topic, the category that you want to write about, et cetera. And maybe that, more of like a base comp kind of plus, right? Like could potentially be viable, to some degree, because then you still have a little bit of the upside, but you have a little bit of that base coverage, and that gives the network side or whatever it is the opportunity to do the other way as well. I don't know.
But I think though, Greg, I think if you want to be a creator and it be more like a job, I think you can do that already today in plenty of different places, right? I think most folks are doing the same thing, we're doing it for the same reason that even we're doing it, right? It's the entrepreneurship piece of it. They want to go out and create something and really lead with an idea that they have and try to nurture and grow that in a way that they feel makes the most sense. So I really think that entrepreneurship piece is the really big piece, because I think if you want a job, you'll get a job, right? There's a reason that they're actually out there.
I buy that. I think they are fairly independent, minimally entrepreneurial, potentially, right? I think they do value the flexibility and the independence. So let's go to our next topic, actually. And we saw a lot of play in the last several weeks around e-commerce, right? Like more and more models of e-commerce coming around. Matt's been testing affiliate marketing on Instagram. What's the future of commerce look like? What are you guys thinking about here? What are you imagining? Are you planning more implementations in your own products? Is creator commerce, a massive field that we are just starting to see the beginning of, or is it going to look like everything else?
Yeah, I think it's just the beginning. One major trend that's happening that not everyone is aware of, particularly not consumers and end users, is this consolidation of power amongst the big tech companies who are moving commerce closer and closer to being core parts of their platform. And in many ways, this is a huge both consumer and creator benefit, because it reduces a lot of friction, makes for consistent experiences, hopefully reduces fraud and spam and all these other things that happen that are some of the relative downsides of an open ecosystem. But some of these changes, I think, while they would have happened already, for example, like Instagram rolling out shopping, they've been accelerated by competition. So, Apple laying down the law on tracking versus Facebook, and Amazon becoming a search giant, as a search giant commerce company. This is all pushed forward a trend that was happening already, which is transactions moving to become a core part of the platforms, and creators, I think, will in some ways benefit from it in the ease of getting started, especially small creators who, if you thought Shopify was easy, imagine what just tagging a product will look like in an Instagram link. So it's going to be cool to see how it shakes out. We're excited about it at Highbeam because we think more and more conversations about commerce are going to continue to happen in DMs and comments. And
is that making transactions part of the engagement stack then? Like, is that like the ultimate expression of the like and the comment?
It can be. As creators roll out more and more products of their own that they're selling, they have to start thinking about a whole bunch of different things that they hadn't thought about before, from fulfillment to payments, and all the way to support. And we're in the camp of helping creators with support, and engagement is part of that. It's sort of intrinsically, I guess, tied to the job of support.
Interesting. Matt, I was just gonna. I know Matt's been doing affiliate stuff on Instagram and was very excited about this in the past as well. Do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I think this is one of the biggest, quote unquote, tipping points in the entire creator economy, because now most creators will have massive leverage they never had before, right? The whole follower count, engagement rate, comments, shares, all that, that's always kind of been a vanity metric. But if you can now show that, hey, my fans, my audience, my influence, right, will lead to purchases, it's game over for a lot of influencers. They're going to become legitimate celebrities or power drivers, marketing tools, whatever you want to call it. So I'm really excited to see, where TikTok's going to lead this. And now, as Jesse said, Instagram has fast tracked it. So I think this is a huge, next fall or next 6 months for creators as a whole, because you're going to want to show that you can push product.
Ken, did you have a question?
Yeah. So I guess, Jesse, to what Jesse was talking about and to what Matt was talking about, I'm curious in terms of for early stage creators, right? Those that are up and coming, those that don't have massive followings, but want to diversify themselves and get into like merchandise or to do some sort of a shopping play. Are they going to? Is it easy for them to just go after, say, all right, I'm gonna do a shopping play on Instagram, on TikTok or YouTube, like wherever their main content is, and does that kind of like push out any up and coming players, these startups that are kind of wanting to get into the shopping, the creator commerce space? Like, how does that all work out? And I guess then this is maybe a little bit more philosophical question: which wins out, the company, the platform with a social aspect, or a company that their DNA is basically online shopping, like Amazon versus Facebook? Which wins out?
So there's a lot in there. I think I have a quick reaction, which is that I think while the big platforms are going to make tremendous push into shopping and be quite successful at it, these vertical specific platforms are going to continue to pop up and grow. If you look at Depop, for example, is a really good case of an experience that's tailored to fast fashion, that's growing at an incredible rate. And that could have been Instagram's product, but they're more of a broad-based general platform. So I think there's going to be room for many in the space, despite the fact that the majority of revenue will flow through these big platforms in the future.
Ken, I think one of the points would be interesting is if Facebook or TikTok or Instagram cuts off the other ones from even allowing them to participate, right? If Instagram figures out how much money they can make from the affiliate program or the shopping integration, they might just say, hey, you can no longer link out to other stores unless they're part of the program. They might do that. Just like Apple said, hey, no other payment companies can be part of iOS. And if that happens, then a lot of companies will be in trouble.
So there's a lot of uncertainty left in the creator commerce space then.
I would, my opinion would be, I would be very careful if you're trying to directly compete there. I don't think anyone's directly competing, right? Everyone has their own angle. But if anyone hasn't seen the integration that TikTok and Instagram have done with shopping, it's extremely good. And if they don't mess it up, it will become the go-to.
Yeah. I mean, I've had a question for you, I guess, relative to like live video and whatnot. Are you seeing any thoughts about integrating this or e-commerce or more direct commerce things into your experiences as well?
Yeah, I think from our point, we've got, I think live selling is huge. I think, for a company like Amazon who have the distribution, like the physical distribution, right? Like everybody else can say, I can sell this, but who can actually deliver? So for a company like that, it's amazing. From our side, it's thinking about what kind of things the creators should be selling at which price. I think the actual, having that as a go-to functionality is kind of a no-brainer. This is, I think it was Zinba, who was a Chinese influencer who sold $300 million of products in 12 hours. Like it's huge, right? And he sold stuff from like ironing boards to some food. It was just like, there is no niche, right? He's just nailing it, right? So I think that model is proven, and who will do it well is the interesting thing to see. I think for me, it's really exciting because I think Amazon, they already do it, right? And now with them getting into the live streaming, they've got Twitch. Like, what else do they need? So, for them, the question whether they can do the tech that the likes of YouTube have, well, they have Twitch, so they already can. So it's just now them integrating those two and sort of having that as a combined offering. From our side, yeah, look, I mean, it's interesting to see the kind of how broad some of these sales that people are going after, right? Like you've got The Rock selling tequila, George Clooney selling tequila, Ryan Reynolds selling gin. But then on the other side, Ryan Reynolds goes and buys a football team in the UK, Wrexham, right? They're kind of nobodies. And he, with his marketing expertise, he's made them huge, right? He did a big, everyone woke up and there was a big Hollywood style sign with Wrexham written up in the hills, right? He's bringing his brand, his charm to something completely unrelated. So that, for me, it's interesting how broad people are starting to think. They know their reach. It's how they're deploying it.
Interesting. Well, that's on that note, I guess, in terms of rapidly selling things or creator leverage, our last topic actually was just sort of a little peek of something I've been spending more time on recently, and I think that's been coming up more often, is just this idea of like what the relationship of sort of crypto, NFTs, social tokens, et cetera, like personal or community economies may play. And I think this seems like another manifestation of what we're seeing here, right? But this one is more wholly owned, internalized to the creator. I just saw a thing like, was it Steve Aoki or someone had sold like, $1.5 million worth of stuff in 5 minutes. They had like a sale open for 5 minutes only, and it was like a $2,500 product and a $5,000 product. And I think they were both digital art pieces that they were selling. They ended up selling like 500 of these things in 5 minutes. That's obviously not everyone's fan base, or certainly most people can't afford that. But I am curious, is anyone thinking about crypto or the blockchain or any of these other pieces as part of their ecosystem that you're currently trying to develop, or are people asking about it, or curious where you guys are in this ecosystem?
Yeah, Greg, on our end, it's something that we've got back of mind, and we're continuing to look at like every development that comes up, and just me personally continuing to try to learn and stay up to speed with it. But honestly, the folks that I'm talking to, the different creators and artists, they're in the same boat. They're still trying to figure it out as well and understand if it's something that they can even leverage. What does the long-term future or even medium-term future look like? So it's still very, I think, ambiguous on my end, certainly. And again, the artists and the creators that I'm talking to, it's the same idea.
So, and one of the reasons I think it's maybe not even taken off yet is that I still think we still have too many creators who that want to monetize basically don't have like even, like non-poverty wages yet, right? Like, so I think like crypto and these things feel like highly speculative, like relative to like my own financial well-being, right? Like, yeah, it's great to have like a bunch of my coins, but then like I can't use them to pay my rent, right? So my take is that I think for the smart creators are likely using this as a method of heat mapping their audience more than anything else, right? Like it's less about the monetary value. I think like that's probably more realistic use case, is not to do financial exchanges, but more so to say like, where are my true fans? Where are the people who are truly loyal? Where are the people who can be activated if I need to activate them? Right. Like, and by getting that kind of mapping, and I think you can do that at any level of wealth or income. I think there's a win there for every creator potentially to activate and leverage some of these pieces. Whether or not you've got an NFT in you or any of these other things, I think that's totally, I have no idea. There are interesting use cases certainly, but I think it still feels to me from the folks I talk to that real, fiat is still king, relatively speaking, and most folks would still rather find ways to proper monetization that's directly usable today, more so than like sort of making things that are investments. But I do think that use case of heat mapping and understanding my community and who's really inside and with me, I think is really valuable to really ultimately driving all of these other vectors, right? From e-commerce to brand deals to content development, et cetera. Any other thoughts from folks?
I think we've seen the art side really, take off in terms of, the crypto NFT. I think we've yet to see a very successful, kind of non-art, non-investment, like more transactional angle. Personally at FamePick, we're waiting to kind of see that. I think the whole creator coin, what Rally is doing is excellent. But I think all the creators are kind of waiting for, a case study, so to speak, to see, who's done it best, who's done it right.
It's hard. It's really hard.
No, absolutely. And for me personally, I think the one I would love to see is that replace some of the pillars in the financial area where they can use coins to buy certain stuff. Like Greg, as you said, maybe you have to be able to kind of use it everyday life for it to really matter. If you still have to use your credit card, right, which is tied to Visa or MasterCard to buy them, you're not really helping anything in that regard.
Right.
Yeah, and to add on to that, Matt, I think you mentioned they're looking for that case study. I think they're also looking for that case study at a different level too. Because it's one thing if you've got 20 million people following you, and you want to put out something and people buy it up in 5 minutes, right? But if I've got 100,000 people following me, or even 25,000, right? Does this even make sense? Does it still work, right? So.
Exactly. I think, Greg, did you say it was Aoki or someone said he sold whatever millions?
I think I just saw it the other somewhere, but yeah, I think
he probably could have sold anything.
Obviously, he could have obviously sold probably anything, right?
Yeah.
But therein lies the problem, right? It's like not everyone can create an NFT because for various reasons. One, how do you to create one requires a lot of investment. Like finance is a high cost to do that because you have to pay for not only the creation but also for the gas, and you're assuming that someone will buy it. And it's not to say that not everything that you create as a digital asset will wind up being sold. And if it's being sold, will you actually make some decent money off of that, right? So that maybe that's not relevant for every creator out there, right? I mean, I'm not sure I could create an NFT myself. Like, could I take one of my photos and make that into an NFT? Yes. Would it be sold? I have no idea. Probably not. But it's also, do I have the financial backing, or like, do I have the money to actually go ahead and have it be minted, right? And I think that's Greg, to what you're saying earlier. That's an issue as well. Like with crypto in general. Like, do I want to invest in Bitcoin? Do I invest in Ethereum? So on and so forth. I think with Rally, with creator coins, that gives you that sense of more of a sense of community, right? And so you can kind of really build around that, so that it's not just about the financials, but it's more about the value added in building a sustainable community in the future.
You know what I think, Ken, is I think Twitch has it right. now I think Twitch is wrapped in a very kind of geeky place that a lot of people have a hard time navigating. But when you look at Twitch, they have multiple kind of currencies in play at the same time, right? Mm-hmm. And I also like the fact that, like, so for example, in Twitch, we obviously have subscriptions, which is cash and fiat. We have bits, which is sort of a virtual currency, but still backed by cash, right? And then we have channel points, which is a participatory currency, and it allows everyone to participate, right? So, like, that's what I think is ultimately the egalitarian part about what Twitch does, is that you don't have to put money in to still be part of the economy that exists around, or part of the community. And the worry I have about crypto, the stat is like only like 13 or 14% of like Americans even have any crypto, right? It's a highly exclusionary sort of, from the technical complexity to the financial requirements, et cetera. It's very difficult and like unwieldy for many people to sort of get involved or participate with. That's why I like what Rally does to some degree, but it doesn't have the participatory sort of free way in, unless the creator chooses a pathway to sort of distribute it and monetize it. By the way, speaking of which, you can get some free Rally coin right now by going over to that link. But you see what I mean? So I do think, like, if, again, thinking forward, I think if you have the opportunity to get like a Rally style coin or a social token, I recommend the use case is more about gating for access to people who want like higher levels of the same thing, more so than sacrificing hard dollars to it, right? Mm-hmm. I think if you don't have that, I think like these other systems likely are going to play out in the long term to be more viable, right? Because people, when you have a global audience and you have a fan in India and you have a fan in America, their ability to afford anything is very different, relatively speaking, right? And you do not create a great community by excluding people. You create a great community by being inclusive, right? And so I think like we're going to have to see more mitigation here ultimately for, I think, these types of economics to be successful.
I think the music industry does.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think the music industry does a good job of use cases for NFTs and crypto. Like there's a company called Opulus that basically has created a mechanism where you can invest in a artist's album, so it's a fundraising mechanism, and then you actually have an income stream in the future. So, I think that's a great, really practical use case. I think the music industry has done a pretty good job of trying to make sense of this stuff.
No one has ever said the music industry's done a good job. Take it back.
I was going to say the same thing.
Well, you're right, though. With NFTs, it does build in a secondary sale model, also potentially for a creator to continue to participate. That can be the kind of annuity that you get with like static content that still exists on YouTube and whatnot that keeps showing up in search. So I do agree, Matt. You had a comment. You'll be the last one, and then we'll wrap up this part.
I think if any industry, if you want to use an analogy, probably not the best one, but Blu-ray won the next generation digital disc because porn
ultraviolet for the win, man. Ultraviolet.
And I think the industry that has the power to kind of make NFT or crypto or whatever angle you're going to take on this thing a mainstay, I think would be gaming. I think specifically mobile gaming in some way, right? Those guys have done in-app currency for almost a decade now. So I could see them being a leader in it if someone finds a way to adopt that the right way. And then I could see, the industry's so big as it is, others will follow.
Yeah, I think so. And that's why I think Twitch is so close to it already, right? Because they have these gaming origins. But I think, to your point, it's not particularly consumer friendly, right? Like even most gaming can be complex for a lot of people, like all the nuance and all the mechanics that are sort of at play.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. It's like the consumer friendly piece of it, because one thing that Matt's comment brought to mind for me is some of the applications for blockchain and gaming, for example, may not even be like a user or consumer might not even be aware that they're blockchain or crypto based. Mm-hmm. Like if you can, purchase a sword in game 1 and then, bring it to game 2 in an interchangeable fashion, it's pretty freaking cool. And who cares if, the consumer doesn't think of the word crypto when they're doing an action.
Well, and there's play to earn plays now, right? Even in the crypto space where I think you pretty intentionally know you're trying to get crypto, but realistically, you could abstract that out and have it go away.
Yeah, that actually makes, just real quick, that makes me wonder too, like if even just not even talking about crypto or the word NFT when you're talking about this stuff is probably beneficial for the more the consumer usage of it, right? Just to help people feel more comfortable.
Well, everyone, this has been awesome. We're about to go to After Dark, so I'm just going to say goodbye, do the closing intro. But we do appreciate all of your time. Really great insights. I know we went through a lot of stuff, but I do feel like it was a good check-in on all the topics we've been covering in the last several months here. And so we're excited for you to have joined us today, and we'll see you at an After Dark in a few minutes if you can make it. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, gentlemen.
All right, Ken, good job. That was a busy rapid fire, but I think we got through a lot of interesting content there for sure. So before we move over to After Dark, though, we do have next week our friend Lily Han from the Lilypad Network coming. She's built a new creator network that is actually helping underrepresented, underserved creators sort of have a voice. So very excited about having Lily join us next week. We do have a lot of great guests still coming up. Josh Constein on the 22nd, Justin Moore on the 29th, Goldie Chan on October 6th. And the slide's not big enough to hold everybody. So, but if you want to see everyone who is coming, head over to creativeeconomy.com/guest list to see all the future guests, as well as to put your name in the list to be one of our future guests as well.
What are we booked up until 2 weeks before Thanksgiving?
3rd, I think November 3rd is booked right now. So yeah, and November 10th actually may be booked also. So that may be the second to last show for the year. We'll see in a bit. Anything else we had to cover before we move forward? So yeah, in case you did miss out, make sure you grab your creator coin. I'll throw the QR code up again one more time for everyone. If you click that, if you can scan that QR code or head over to bit.ly/AMA drop 2, you can pick up your first AMA coin and be part of our community of folks. We are going to head over to After Dark now, which is our after show. It is off the record. Feel free to join us, chat with our friends and our guests that were here, maybe add your own voice to the conversation. So we are excited to see you over there. And with that, Ken, I'll see you in a few minutes. Let's, for now, though, just get back to the show. All right.
Peace.